WHO, that's the World Health Organization No Tobacco Day. Now, it comes every year, and of course, it will amaze you to know that despite the series of warning, against the intake of tobacco, you still find people indulging in this harmful substance. And also, it has also been discovered that tobacco, is responsible for a high level of cardiovascular diseases that we do have today. Well, to discuss all this today, we are privileged to have Mrs. Charity Ainobe Asekale. She's a public health campaigner. Madam, you're welcome to this program this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And also Dr. Alex Oko is also here, a public health practitioner, physician too. You're welcome to this program, Doctor.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, Mrs., let's start from you. Now, when we say tobacco, what exactly are we talking about?
When we say tobacco, we are talking about a harmful substance that is cultivated, and most of the time it is processed to what people now call cigarettes.
Okay.
They smoke it or is chewed. There are also a series of other tobacco products that are better processed to attract certain customers. For instance, we have the smokeless tobacco. It doesn't give off any smoke. It doesn't make it less harmful than the cigarettes that produces smoke. It also causes cardiovascular diseases as well. But the catch is that these processed tobacco products are made to look more attractive to the youth population because they make up the population of the largest we have in Africa. Yeah. And if you are able to make these products attractive to them, you have a big market.
Okay. Now, Dr. Alex, oftentimes you hear people say that for the person that takes the tobacco, or let's put it this way, for the person that stays close to the person that consumes tobacco, he stands, even a greater risk than the person that takes it. Is that correct? Let's get your thoughts from the medical, angle now.
Yes, that refers to the second-hand smoker, so to say.
Yeah.
Once you're in contact with those that take tobacco, you inadvertently inhale some of it, and that puts you at risk of the use of tobacco as well. However, studies have shown that just about one out of 7 of deaths occasioned by tobacco use happen in second-hand smokers, while the other larger proportion is as a result of direct use. So there is no way a second-hand smoker, will be at a greater risk than the person taking it per se. But suffices to say that being a second-hand smoker poses a huge amount of danger because you are not a chronic user. You are not an everyday user. So when you are exposed to it, periodically like that, the amount of resistance that chronic users may have may not be the same that you have, the same thing that you have. So that is why the warning that goes to direct users also goes to second-hand users. And we often advise that if you don't take it, don't go close to those that take it. Because the danger of using tobacco is enormous. In fact, it's the bane of public health campaign globally.
Okay.
Yes, it's a huge problem.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ainobe, you discovered that despite series of warning, at times you will find substances that have tobacco in them. There are a series of warning against them. You still find people indulging in the intake of tobacco. Is there anything in tobacco that people just get used to that they cannot stop?
The answer is an emphatic yes.
Okay.
Actually, there are several components in tobacco products, but given the focus of the World No Tobacco Day, focusing on heart diseases, I'll focus on 2 of those components. Okay. First, we have what we call nicotine present in these tobacco products. What nicotine does is that over time, it becomes addictive to the user. The user becomes incapable of functioning, carrying out normal daily, day-to-day tasks without having the feeling that, okay, I've consumed this product, I'm doing fine, I'm doing okay. So it's a feeling that nicotine gives. But the disadvantage is that what nicotine does is it causes development of what we call plaques. I think the doctor can come in better in that angle. It causes the development of what we call plaques that line the blood vessel that supplies blood to the heart. As such, it reduces the flow of blood. If the blood vessel was supposed to be this wide, it reduces the space. As such, the flow of blood to the heart reduces. It gives rise to maybe a heart attack. Then the second component also present in tobacco products, carbon monoxide. This particular component, we have a molecule in the blood called a hemoglobin, where oxygen binds to. But carbon monoxide replaces oxygen and binds to hemoglobin. As such, the oxygen that is supposed to get to various cells in the bodies are reduced. As such, the heart has to enlarge in order to function more. So this goes on, and in due time, this person might suffer from high blood pressure, heart attack, or even stroke.
Okay. Now, Dr. Alex, just like what Amada was trying to explain, that the focus of this year's observance is looking at cardiovascular diseases.
Yes.
He also talked about the plaque that nicotine bounds to induce into our bloodstream. Yes. And also discovered that the intake of tobacco can also be responsible for stroke. Is that correct? Let's start from the short stroke first before we look at the plaques and all that.
Yes. You know, when you say stroke, stroke means a cerebral accident, an accident that happens in the brain. It could be of vascular origin, it could be of neural origin, the brain substance. But the kind of stroke that you get from the chronic use of tobacco is the vascular one. Now, tobacco is the second commonest cause of cardiovascular disease, second only to hypertension. And when we talk of cardiovascular disease, we're talking of diseases of the heart and of the vessels, the blood vessels generally, you know, arteries and veins. You know, and tobacco, you know, does a lot of damage to both the heart and the vessels. But how it causes most of the cardiovascular damages and you know, injuries and assaults to the body is mainly through the vessels. What it does to the vessel is that, you know, it alters the constituency of the vascular integrity. Vessels are supposed to be, you know, elastic ordinarily, but you find that in chronic use or in chronic users of tobacco, you know, their vessels over time lose that elasticity. You know, they become sclerotic. That's what we call sclerotic. And once the elasticity of the vessels are lost, you know, the flow of blood in it, you know, becomes sometimes when the heart will beat, supposed to expand and give room for more blood, it refuses to do that expansion. They will call that in medicine peripheral resistance, and that resistance build up, you know, to a strain on the heart. The heart is now working against a higher pressure, and it weakens the heart. That's the first way that the heart gets the problem. Then that troubled vessel, you know, it does not allow the constituents of blood, you know, the cells and all that, to pass easily. So they tend to drag on the wall. And when they do that, you know, there is some kind of deposits on the wall. Those deposits of substances, you know, that eventually accumulate is what we commonly refer to as plaques, as we talked about. You know, and over time, those deposits on the wall, especially if they happen, you know, bilaterally on both sides, it narrows the lumen, the passage of the wall, and that reduces the flow to the distal organ or tissue that vessel supplies. And if it happens in the brain, in vessel leading to the brain, you will have stroke. If it happens in the vessel that supplies the heart itself, which we refer to as coronary vessels, you have, you know, heart problems.
Cardiovascular.
Yes, you have heart problems, including, you know, and arrest occasioned by an attack, you know, and sometimes it happens insidiously. It could happen in renal vessels, in the kidney vessels, and you have renal failure. So it's all encompassing. You know? So the bane of cardiovascular diseases globally is to stem the tide of tobacco use. Okay. If you reduce tobacco use, then you would have reduced cardiovascular disease very significantly.
Okay. Let me come to the public health, campaigner here, Ms. Ainobe. Now, how can we really say no to tobacco? Because we still have some myths and beliefs that it's medicinal. That our forefathers have been taking this thing for decades of years and all that, and they didn't die. And you still find the tendency for people, most especially, in our rural settings, that tendency to hold on to the intake of tobacco. So how can we say no to tobacco?
We can say no to tobacco in several ways. As a public health campaigner, what I usually advise is we take proactive steps. What I mean by taking proactive steps is to ensure we cut off potential users from even engaging in the use in the first instance. That is what we call primary prevention. So when we are able to
is this sudden or
when we say cutting off, we do the several health promotion campaigns, interventions to ensure they don't even engage in using tobacco products.
Okay.
If you don't engage in it, you are not predisposing yourself to cardiovascular diseases related to tobacco use. So when that stage is no longer in force, if the potential users finally get to a stage where they now use, we now preach quitting. By doing that, one of the steps we engage such persons in to ensure they quit is by engaging them in what we call tobacco cessation clubs. These are clubs made up by a group of persons who are also smokers trying to quit. Aside that, they also engage these persons to talk to others who are about to use, already using, not to engage in such habits. We also do what we call referrals, that is referring persons who are already engaging in this habit and who are already predisposed to certain diseases, for instance, the cardiovascular diseases, to health institutions like the hospitals. That's where the doctor comes in now. So, but most of the time what we do is to ensure potential users don't even engage in it. That is why most of the time we do our campaigns with students in secondary schools and maybe a little bit in primary school. Why? Because research has shown that what the tobacco companies, they do, I don't want to mention the name of it, it's a very big NGO. What the research they did, they carried out several research that had several tracks. I think in Gambia, Zambia, Nigeria was also part of it. They discovered that what the tobacco company does is that they make tobacco products more attractive to teenagers. And teenagers are the highest, the youth population in Africa is the highest we have at present. They make up more than 35% of the population in Africa. So if you're able to get 35% of the African population to like your product, you are in money, you are making a lot of money. I can't begin to calculate how much, but you are not doing the continent any good. In other words, a time will come, majority of our youth population will be predisposed to cardiovascular diseases as well as other diseases associated with tobacco use. So what we do is prevent use. We are always fighting to do that. And we adopt methods from the World Health Organization because they are a larger body. They have a wider reach than we do. So one of the methods they've given out there to adopt use, you can find some of these procedures in what we call the World Health Tobacco Control Framework, the WHO FCTC. Okay. So they also have another called the M-Power. When we say M-Power, the M stands for monitoring tobacco use as well as tobacco policies. You know, we now have a national tobacco control policy in place, but implementation is an issue. Then P, we stands for protecting people, like the doctor already mentioned, from being exposed to secondhand smoke, becoming passive smokers. Then we have the O. You offer help to those who are already engaged in smoking or using other tobacco products. Then W.
Using other tobacco products,
yes, the other
less harmful?
Not necessarily less harmful, because when you talk about tobacco cigarettes, tobacco products, even there's another called a shisha that is already in vogue, cigars, pipes. No one is less harmful. As a matter of fact, the harm done to individuals who are 50 years and below, when I say 50 years and below, I mean 50, 49 downwards, is more than the harm tobacco consumption does to individuals who are 50 years and above.
Okay. We're going to take a short pause now because of time, and we'll just quickly take a short pause. When we come back, we're going to really talk more on things so that we can also see the theme of this year's observance, the World No Tobacco Day, as it's going to be observed tomorrow. So we'll take a short pause now. Please stay tuned.
TMI, every opinion counts.
All right, thank you so much. The program is still this morning on ITV, on independent television. We are still looking at the World No Tobacco Day, which is tomorrow in view. And the theme of this year's observance is tobacco and heart disease. And we've been focusing on cardiovascular diseases that the intake of tobacco can give to you. Miss, I know a bit. Let's look at, despite series of attempts by the WHO and perhaps some other health practitioners to really let people know the health risk involved with the intake of tobacco, you discover that all these attempts seem to be a mirage. What is responsible for this?
I believe one of the major factors that is responsible for the continued use of tobacco products is the fact that these tobacco companies, what they do is target low and middle income countries, that is developing countries, countries where maybe the literacy level is not very high. That is, majority of the populations they didn't pass through maybe secondary school, primary school, secondary school, thereabout. So without education or knowledge, ignorance is bound to reign.
But at times you even have some doctors.
So I'll come to that, yes. So that is one angle to it. Then another angle to it is the issue you raised up before of addiction. Certain persons, they become addicted to it, and at some conscious level, they believe they cannot do without it. Then that brings me to, I think, the third factor that could be responsible is the lack of backbone attached to implementation of our policies. It's not enough to have a policy and say, okay, yes, we have a policy, but is it being implemented?
Enforced?
If it is being enforced, if it is being implemented at the federal, state, and local levels, I'm telling you, the level of the number of tobacco consumers would reduce drastically. And as such, you are also helping others who are indirectly becoming passive smokers. That is, they are secondhand smokers. They are not smoking, but they are put at risk because of these persons who are smoking. Now, I'll come to Africa and then Nigeria. What I believe we can do as a preventive measure is to ensure we educate our young population, because they are currently the target of the tobacco companies. And I wouldn't think I don't think I'll be out of line if I say we should see tobacco companies as terrorists, because terrorists are not just those you see carrying guns, attacking citizens. These persons are indirectly, subtly attacking our youth population. They are promoting what I would call, they're ensuring that we don't get developed socio-economically as well as health-wise. And if you're attacking the health and the socio-economic development of a nation, of a population, you are a terrorist.
All right, Doctor, let me come to you quickly because of time now. How would you want to wrap this? Would you see, I think you just say that intake of tobacco is dangerous to your health.
Yes, and you know, like the theme of the year says, tobacco breaks the heart.
Yeah.
So, and the engine of the whole body is the heart. So tobacco actually kills the individual totally. And the bane of public health today is the rising prevalence of tobacco use. And to contribute to factors that could stem the tide of that is that the warning on tobacco use should be better emphasized. For now, they are warning on one hand and enticing on the other hand. You know, when you say, you know, tobacco use is dangerous to your health or smokers are liable to die young, you know, they should say that with emphasis and cap it up, you know, with chronology of logic.
Pictorial,
so that people that can't even read will see. Sometimes what you see scares you more than what you read, or what you read. So that warning should be better emphasized.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
I
wanted to just chip in here.
What the government should do is to raise taxes.
Thank you.
Raise taxes for this tobacco
campaign against
and let the business be very, very unfriendly.
Okay,
thank you.
So that people
coming to what the doctor just mentioned about making the inscriptions on tobacco, the packs of tobacco product more legible to readers and those that are not. It's actually made available in our policy, but this comes back to implementation. Coming back again to taxes, it's there. Increase taxes. You can't promote tobacco use on the internet, on TV, in near schools or around children. Is in the policy.
All right, thank you so
not
much.
implemented.
Because of time, thank you so much,
very
Madam
much.
Paul. Please extend that handshake there. And this is how we're going to say a very big thank you to the lady here and also Doctor. Well, up next is Start Times. Please stay tuned.